Picture this. You are a wealthy traveler, right? Making your way through this incredibly exclusive private terminal at Heathrow Airport.
Oh, yeah, the kind of terminal where you don't even see regular passengers.
Exactly. It's a routine morning. You've got your coffee, you're expecting absolute VIP treatment, and you are just waiting to board a quick flight to a friend's chateau south of Paris.
That's pretty nice.
Right. So you're casually watching the security line, and you notice a familiar face. It's the Queen Consort, Camilla.
Oh.
She is putting her bags on the conveyor belt, fully expecting to just breeze right through. The X-ray machine is humming along, and then it suddenly stops.
The sound nobody wants to hear at the airport.
Yeah, that clunk. So the security officers pull her bag aside, and as they dig past her makeup, her book, her phone charger, they find something that brings the entire terminal to a grinding halt.
Classified military secrets?
Classified military secrets.
I mean, this sounds completely fictional, right? Almost like a scene straight out of a political thriller or something.
It really does.
But according to the extensive reports we are unpacking today, this was a very real, very shocking event. One that completely shattered the illusion of absolute privilege.
And that is exactly the mission of our deep dive today. We are unpacking an astonishing account of royal scandal, high-stakes espionage, and national security.
Which is just a massive topic.
It is. We are going to walk you through a detailed report of Camilla's arrest, the interrogation that followed, and the unprecedented trial.
Setting the broader context right out of the gate is really crucial here, because the reports we are analyzing, they aren't just tabloid gossip about the royal family.
No, not at all.
We are actually looking at a fascinating, albeit terrifying, case study in insider threats. It exposes the sheer vulnerability of secure information.
Yeah.
The core question this raises is what actually happens when absolute, unquestioned privilege collides head-on with the uncompromising rule of law.
So let's start from the very beginning, because the timeline of how this all went down is it's wild.
It really is.
It is the morning of November 15th. Camilla arrives at Heathrow's private terminal around 10:00 a.m.
And if you have ever flown, you know the drill. But this terminal is specifically designed for wealthy individuals, dignitaries, people who want privacy.
Yeah, she's heading to France. She told King Charles this was just a short vacation to visit an old friend. She's expecting the journey to be smooth, just like the countless other times she's traveled.
Right. She is entirely familiar with the procedures. She knows she has to go through security. But she's used to these checks being incredibly quick and, highly deferential to her status.
Exactly.
So she walked through the metal detector without an issue. Then she waits for her carry-on bag, and it simply doesn't come out the other side.
We have all been there. That relatable airport annoyance when your bag gets flagged.
The worst.
So the security officer monitoring the X-ray screen stops the belt. He calls over a supervisor. They are whispering, looking really closely at the screen.
And Camilla is very used to people hurrying to accommodate her.
Right. So she starts getting visibly irritated. The supervisor approaches her, extremely politely, and insists that they need to conduct a manual inspection of the bag.
And her reaction to that request is very telling.
Oh, absolutely.
She instantly gets defensive. She pulls rank, explicitly reminding them that she is the Queen Consort. She demands to board her flight immediately and even threatens the supervisor's job for delaying her.
The supervisor doesn't blink. He calmly explains that aviation security regulations apply to everyone by law.
Which is true.
So Camilla reluctantly agrees. She's standing there with her arms crossed, scowling. The officers put on their gloves and start digging.
Right into the bag.
Yeah. They pull out the normal items, the book, the toiletries. Then at the very bottom of the bag, hidden beneath all her personal items, they pull out several folders.
And this is the moment.
This is it.
Yeah.
The officer opens one and his face just drops. The folders are covered in red labels reading, "Secret, for official use only," and "Not for distribution."
What we're seeing here is a textbook example of the insider blind spot.
The insider blind spot. Tell me about that.
So in security circles, this is a known phenomenon that relies heavily on the psychology of difference. Security systems are traditionally designed to keep bad actors out, right? They focus on the perimeter.
Like keeping the bad guys from getting in the building.
Exactly. But when someone is already inside the perimeter, especially someone with immense social standing, security personnel are psychologically conditioned to defer to them.
Oh, I see. Because she's the Queen Consort, they just assume she's safe.
Right. Camilla was relying on the assumption that her title essentially made her exempt from basic scrutiny. She assumed her status was an invisible shield.
allowing her to bypass standard checks through social engineering just by acting like she belonged there.
Precisely. It was a massive, fatal miscalculation on her part.
And that miscalculation lands her straight in a windowless airport interrogation room.
Talk about a change of scenery.
Literally. The police are called in immediately. They escort her to this plain room with just a table and some chairs. The detective leading the charge is Chief Inspector Morrison.
And he lays out the folders right there on the table.
Right. So what exactly did they find in those folders? I mean, was it just old schedules or minor diplomatic notes?
Far from it. The specific contents of these folders represented a catastrophic breach of national security.
What are we talking?
The investigators found detailed British military deployments. This included troop locations and equipment types in very sensitive overseas regions.
That is huge.
It gets worse. There were also highly classified diplomatic cables. To put that in perspective, diplomatic cables are essentially the highly secure, unfiltered text messages between British embassies and the government.
So they reveal exactly where Britain stood on sensitive negotiations.
Exactly. And perhaps most alarmingly, there were domestic terror threat assessments on critical infrastructure,
Oh, wow.
outlining the specific vulnerabilities in local power plants and transportation systems.
So literally information that could directly lead to a massive loss of life if it fell into the wrong hands.
Yes.
So Morrison asks the obvious question. Why do you have these? And this is where her story starts shifting. First, she tries to play it cool. She says, well, I'm the queen consort. I have access to these things to support the king. It was an accident. I must have just packed them by mistake.
Yes, the old, I accidentally packed highly classified military deployments next to my travel toothpaste defense.
A classic.
A classic that immediately falls apart under professional scrutiny.
Obviously.
Morrison points out three glaring holes in that excuse. First, the physical placement. The documents weren't just tossed in. They were deliberately hidden at the very bottom of the carry-on, under all her personal effects.
Right, which implies intentional concealment, not an accident.
Exactly. Second, the clearance level. The operational and tactical intelligence in those folders was entirely outside the purview of a queen consort's official duties. She had no legitimate reason to possess them.
And the third hole is the absolute kicker. Morrison points out that the papers actually had her own handwritten notes in the margins.
She had been actively studying these materials.
So her face goes red. She gets defensive again and demands they call King Charles to clear it up.
And Morrison calmly explains that not even the king can override the Official Secrets Act.
We should probably pause and clarify what the Official Secrets Act actually is, because it's central to everything that follows.
Good point. It is the primary legislation in the UK that protects state secrets and national security information from unauthorized disclosure.
And crucially, it applies to every single person within the jurisdiction of the UK. There is no royal exemption clause.
None. So when confronted with this reality, her strategy crumbles. She abandons the accidental packing excuse and claims she just took them from Charles's study as casual reading material for the flight.
Who brings domestic terror threat assessments as light airplane reading?
Right. Morrison isn't buying it. So he asks about the friend in France she is visiting.
And suddenly, she becomes entirely evasive. She can't remember the exact address or even the full details of this supposed old friend.
Which is a huge red flag. You don't fly internationally to a private chateau without knowing where you are going.
Exactly. So Morrison steps out, consults with the security services, and comes back with the hammer. He formally arrests her.
And the scene that follows paints a staggering contrast. She refuses the handcuffs at first, but realizes resisting will only make it worse.
It's hard to even picture this.
She is led through the Heathrow terminal in handcuffs, while airport staff and travelers literally stop and film her on their phones.
Wow.
The carefully constructed image of a monarch is dismantled in real time by smartphone cameras.
And it all culminates in her processing at a West London police station, complete with fingerprints, a mugshot, and the confiscation of her personal belongings.
Just incredible.
Okay, so she is caught red-handed at the airport. But how did she even get these documents out of the palace in the first place? Did she just walk into Charles's study and stuff them in her purse?
That is exactly what the security services needed to figure out. Once they got involved, they started following the digital breadcrumbs, and it revealed a much larger systemic failure.
Systemic failure, how?
Well, the Metropolitan Police and Security Services launched a massive forensic investigation. They interviewed palace staff who reported seeing her taking papers from Charles's study late at night.
Really? Late at night?
Yeah. And she had been asking staff to make secret photocopies of certain documents and explicitly instructing them not to mention it to anyone.
Didn't anyone think to check the security cameras?
They eventually did. And the cameras literally caught her photographing classified documents with her mobile phone.
That's bold.
Very. When investigators finally conducted a forensic examination of her laptop and phone, they found hundreds of these photographs.
Hundreds.
Hundreds, establishing a clear 6-month timeline of espionage.
6 months. The progression of what she was taking over those 6 months is really telling, too.
It is.
It started with her photographing documents related to government finances and diplomatic relationships with wealthy nations in the Middle East. Then it escalated to military and intelligence materials.
Which begs the question, who was she planning to give these to in France? Was it really just an old friend?
Hardly. The investigation uncovered regular communication with a man named Philippe Marchand.
Marchand.
The reports describe him as a wealthy French businessman, but he was actually a known intelligence asset.
Right. And in the world of espionage, an intelligence asset is someone who leverages their business or social connections to gather and trade classified information on behalf of foreign governments.
And Marchand was already on British intelligence watch lists for suspected involvement in exactly this kind of shadow economy.
They found coded text messages between Camilla and Marchand. He would ask about items she could acquire, and they would discuss compensation.
She would reply with cryptic references to packages and deliveries.
On top of that, financial investigators uncovered secret, private bank accounts opened solely in her name, completely without Charles's knowledge.
And these accounts were receiving massive, undisclosed funds from shell companies connected to Marchand.
This completely destroys her casual reading defense.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You have covert communication, coded language, clandestine financial compensation, and a relationship with a known intelligence asset.
It's a full-blown operation.
It really is. And the mechanics of this intelligence failure highlight a massive flaw in the palace's security protocols.
What were they doing wrong?
They operated on a model of implicit trust for internal family members, rather than a modern zero-trust security architecture.
Zero trust architecture.
Right. A zero-trust model assumes every user, regardless of title, must be continuously verified and monitored when accessing sensitive data.
Oh, hold on. Stop right there. We are talking about the Queen Consort.
I know.
She is married to the king. She has access to a massive royal estate and theoretically everything she could ever want. Why on earth would she need to sell state secrets for cash?
That is the exact question investigators hammered her on during the interrogations.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense on the surface.
But when the evidence became absolutely insurmountable, she finally confessed the motive. And it was driven by a profound, deeply personal paranoia.
Paranoia about what?
She confessed her deepest anxiety, financial ruin, and the complete loss of her status if Charles were to die before her.
Even with all that royal wealth?
Yes. Because she knew she was largely disliked by the British public and never truly accepted by the royal family inner circle.
Ah.
She was terrified that without Charles to protect her, the institution would cast her aside, stripping her of her income, her properties, and her security.
So she wanted to build an independent, impenetrable financial safety net that the royal family couldn't touch.
Exactly.
Wow. Meanwhile, while Camilla is sitting in a police interrogation room confessing to all of this, King Charles is completely in the dark.
Oh, he had no idea.
He is attending a military veterans memorial in central London. A private secretary gets the urgent call, walks up to the king, and whispers the news in his ear.
And the report notes Charles literally goes white. He looks like he's going to physically stumble.
So he fakes a sudden illness to excuse himself from the memorial and is rushed back to Buckingham Palace in his official car.
You can only imagine the sheer chaos behind the palace doors at that moment.
Absolute panic.
The advisors go into emergency crisis mode. There is absolutely no precedent for a member of the royal family, let alone the Queen Consort, being arrested for national security crimes.
Zero precedent.
Before they can even begin to craft a public statement, Charles demands to speak directly to the police and security services. He wants to see the evidence himself.
Of course. He desperately wants to believe there is a misunderstanding.
Right, but they show him the photos on her phone. They play him the recordings of her calls with Marchand.
Ouch.
They lay out the scope of the intelligence she took.
And suddenly, the political reality comes crashing down. The Prime Minister is informed and immediately steps in, making it crystal clear to Charles there will be no royal cover-up.
The government will pursue this through normal legal channels. regardless of her status.
Prince William's reaction provides a really stark contrast to Charles's initial denial, too.
It really does. William is reportedly not surprised in the slightest.
Not at all. He had long harbored a deep distrust of Camilla. He viewed her as someone fundamentally motivated by self-interest.
He urges his father to enforce the maximum consequences, insisting that any attempt to protect her would fatally undermine the monarchy's standing with the public.
It would prove that the royals believe they are above the law.
Exactly.
This sets the stage for one of the most dramatic confrontations imaginable. Charles requests a private meeting with Camilla at the police station.
It takes place in a secure room with guards stationed outside.
She looks exhausted and terrified. She breaks down, begging him. She promises that if he just uses his influence to make the charges go away, she will be the perfect wife forever.
And what does he do in that moment?
Well, think about it.
It is an incredibly agonizing leadership moment for him. Think about the history between them. He had fought for decades, enduring relentless public hatred and family disapproval just to marry this woman.
And make her his queen consort.
Right. And in that room, faced with undeniable proof of her betrayal of the country and of him personally, he has to make an impossible choice between personal loyalty and his constitutional duty.
And he chooses the crown.
He does.
He tells her he is disgusted by her selfishness. He explicitly states that his love for her cannot override the rule of law. He refuses to interfere.
Right there, in that police station, he tells her the marriage is effectively over.
He leaves, returns to the palace, and begins the process of permanently stripping her of her royal title and removing her from all duties.
It is a profound demonstration of prioritizing national integrity. He recognized that to shield her would be to declare the monarchy a rogue institution.
But taking away her title was only the beginning.
Yeah, she still had to face the full weight of the British justice system.
And that leads us to the trial at the Old Bailey. This has to be completely unprecedented. A queen consort standing trial in a criminal court for national security crimes.
Entirely unprecedented. The Old Bailey is the central criminal court of England and Wales, where the most serious cases are heard.
Right.
Because of the highly sensitive nature of the classified documents involved, parts of the trial were actually closed to the public and the press.
The atmosphere must have been incredibly tense. Who did they even call to the stand? I imagine palace staff aren't used to testifying against royalty.
They certainly aren't. But the prosecution meticulously dismantled her defense, using the very people she relied on.
Palace workers took the stand, testifying under oath about her secret copying and her late-night snooping in Charles's private study.
Then, forensic accountants took over. They walked the jury through the complex web of hidden bank accounts,
tracing the massive, undisclosed payments flowing in from Philippe Marchand's network of shell companies.
It was incredibly thorough.
What could her lawyers possibly argue against that mountain of evidence?
Their strategy was essentially to argue negligence over malice.
Negligence?
Yeah. They tried to frame her actions as careless curiosity, claiming she just wanted to understand government issues better to support her husband.
And Marchand?
They argued Marchand was simply an old friend offering financial advice.
You can't really explain away coded messages about deliveries and hidden bank accounts receiving foreign funds, though.
Exactly. The jury didn't buy it. After 3 weeks of intense testimony, they returned their verdict.
And she was found guilty on most of the charges, including conspiracy, breaking financial rules, and the unauthorized possession of classified documents.
However, there is a crucial legal nuance here regarding the Official Secrets Act. She was actually cleared of definitively passing the specific secrets to foreign agents.
Wait, if she had the documents and the money, why was she cleared of passing them?
It comes down to the specific burden of proof required in a criminal court.
Okay, explain that.
To prove she actually passed the secrets, the Crown couldn't just show she possessed them and intended to hand them over. They needed a definitive paper trail or physical surveillance of the actual handoff occurring.
Ah, I see.
Proving a transfer is notoriously difficult to achieve without compromising the intelligence sources themselves. The investigators knew she was planning to meet Marchand with the documents in France, but they couldn't definitively prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a past transfer of those specific top-secret files had already occurred.
Still, the guilty verdicts on possession and conspiracy were more than enough to end her life as she knew it.
Completely.
The judge hands down the sentence. Because of her age and her health, she isn't sent to a traditional high-security prison. Instead, she is sentenced to 6 years of strict house arrest.
And the conditions are severe. She's allowed absolutely no internet access and no phone access.
Total digital isolation.
Total. and her divorce from Charles is finalized, leaving her completely exiled from the life she tried so desperately to secure.
When you analyze the mechanics of this entire saga, the most vital takeaway is understanding the true nature of vulnerabilities.
That's right.
We often imagine massive security breaches as the work of ideological zealots or cinematic masterminds rappelling through skylights.
But the reality is much more grounded. Massive breaches are frequently driven by the most mundane human fears imaginable.
Like financial insecurity.
Financial insecurity, personal paranoia, or just the desperate need for a safety net.
The most dangerous threats to any organization, any company, or even any family rarely announce themselves at the front door.
No, they almost always come from the inside.
They come from the people we assume are entirely beyond suspicion, simply because of their titles, their tenure, or their proximity to power.
The palace failed because they didn't employ a zero-trust architecture. They trusted the person instead of monitoring the access.
And that is exactly what we want you to mull over today. Think about the systems you rely on every day.
The things you take for granted.
Exactly. Maybe it is the security protocols at your workplace or even your own digital networks at home.
How much of that security relies purely on trusting the people who have the keys, rather than actually monitoring what they do with those keys?
If a king couldn't trust his own wife alone in his own study, what unmonitored access are you granting in your own life based on nothing but a title?
A deeply unsettling but necessary question to consider.
That's all for today's deep dive. We'll catch you next time.